It's a reminder that you can do this, you can do hard things. And so much of this is just, it's a learning experience. So just because it wasn't something you did before doesn't mean that you can't do it now. So just trusting in your own capacity to handle the hard stuff. If you've gotten to the point that you're at in your relationship where things have devolved enough that you need to be moving forward with divorce, you've dealt with something harder than finances, I promise.
Welcome to the Divorce Discussions Podcast, where professionals share practical guidance to help you move through divorce with clarity and confidence. Let's get into the discussion.
Money. It can be one of the most stressful parts of divorce. Not just getting through it, but what happens after the decree is signed. Because honestly, it's not just about numbers, it's about your future, your stability, and whether you're making decisions that you're still going to feel good about years from now. So how do you know if you're making the right financial choices, and when might it be time to bring in support? Well, we're going to be covering all of that and more in today's episode. Welcome to Divorce Discussions. I'm Angie Weber, the director of the Divorce Support Collective, where we seek to reimagine the process of divorce through collaboration and support. And today I am incredibly honored to introduce you all to Karise Gaynor-Morgan. Karise is an attorney turned wealth advisor with Bernstein Private Wealth Management in Minneapolis. She is a certified financial planner, a certified exit planning advisor, and holds a Series 7 and 66 investment licenses. Her practice focuses on holistically advising high net worth individuals and families to simplify the complexities that come with wealth. Given her passion and prior life experiences, she specifically focuses on serving those in major life transitions like divorce. She is zealous about advocating for post-divorce wealth empowerment and believes that demystifying finance and investment is the key way to accomplish this goal. So thank you for taking your time and joining us today, Karise.
Thanks, Angie, for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. Well, again, I'm sure you are no stranger to hearing all of the fears and the questions and the stressors that people have about finances when it comes to divorce, because I'm sure you've heard plenty of stories, but I'd like to start out a little bit with kind of your story, because I know your passion for what you do professionally comes in from your personal experience as well.
Yeah, happy to share. That is a big reason why a lot of my practice does focus on the life transition and or divorce space, is because I've navigated one. And I have been on the flip side of that, where you were, at the time anyways, I was more the financially disadvantaged spouse because I got married young and I had been in school. So didn't have all that much of a way to, of a career to speak of. And my partner was pretty significantly older and more established. And so there was that sort of financial imbalance at the time. And in addition to the litany of emotions you're going through and questions on your mind and just general heartbreak that you're navigating, then all these practical things come.
Yeah.
Can I afford my life anymore? Like, where do I go for help? What is the next step in the process? It's absolutely overwhelming just from a practical standpoint. So that is a big thing that drives the passion I have around serving clients in this space. Is I know exactly where they're at. None of the stuff that they're going through is going to be upsetting for me or too challenging for me. Like, I'm here to support them in a way that I wish I had been supported when I was navigating the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I like a few of those things that you hit on. Not that you had to experience that financial imbalance in your relationship, but I think that is something that is so common for a lot of people going through divorce. I don't want to say that it's always the woman who feels that way, because sometimes it can be the man, but in a majority, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it is the woman that's like, well, I've never looked at our finances before. They always did it, or I don't know what's in our accounts, or, where things are set up. And so can you give some maybe advice to someone who does feel like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I'm really looking at my finances and it really scares me and I don't even know where to begin?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that you can do this, you can do hard things. And so much of this is just, it's a learning experience. So just because it wasn't something you did before doesn't mean that you can't do it now. So just trusting in your own capacity to handle the hard stuff. If you've gotten to the point that you're at in your relationship where things have devolved enough that you need to be moving forward with divorce, you've dealt with something harder than finances, I promise. And while
Sure.
it's overwhelming, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. There is a lot of resources available just online through Google searching. And then, of course, you have the option of working with someone in my profession to help you simplify those complexities. But it starts
Yeah.
with, you got this.
Yeah, I think that's such a great reminder because the other thing I was going to highlight that you touched on is that emotions come in. And so instead of making like proactive, rational decisions, especially when it comes to money, which can be emotional in its own sense, you have all these emotions of the divorce happening where people might be leading with those emotional decisions only later to look back and be like, oh man, I really wish I would have like paused and maybe gotten some advice before I made that choice because now it's impacting them years after. So I think just that reminder of like, you've got this, you can do hard things. Because, we talk a lot about you don't get married saying, oh, I can't wait for us to get divorced and have to dig into all of this stuff. It's just something that happens and you are able to move through it and thrive on the other side as well.
Yep.
So, of course, like you just said too, we could go to Google, we could search some things, but also we always talk at the Divorce Support Collective how important it is to really build your support team while going through a
Mhm.
divorce. And so, in your opinion, what is the best time, whether it's contemplation, actively going through the divorce, or post decree, what is the best time for someone to get financial assistance or insight from someone like you?
As soon as possible. And I often think that that is rarely the case. So
Mm,
usually when people come to me who are navigating divorce, it's at the end. We have a divorce decree. I have a settlement in hand. What do I do with all of this? And
mhm.
certainly I can be incredibly helpful. Anybody, in my space can be incredibly helpful at that point in time. But I think that more could be done the earlier. So if you have a financial advisor already in the picture and you have a good relationship with this person and it's somebody you maybe want to navigate staying with this person and just having separate accounts, if it was someone who
Mhm.
was there with you as the married couple, then you can start asking those questions then. If you're at a point where you've decided this financial advisor has more of a relationship with the other partner who established the relationship, who is perhaps wearing the money hat, and I would like someone else, ask around, ask friends, ask your divorce attorney and say, I'd like to be connected with somebody to start asking questions now.
Yeah.
I will also say, and maybe this is more unique to my practice, and just given the fact that I started my career practicing law, I don't do that and I legally can't, but I know so much about the divorce process because of that
Mm.
I like to be involved as soon as someone's identified. I guess they're at the asset minimums for my firm. And then they would like to have a discussion with someone because there is so much we can do from if you've never set up a budget before and you need help navigating that, I can help walk you through it. If you need help understanding what's in the accounts or thinking through what a settlement split might be, I can help answer those questions, even with just hypotheticals, because I can run projections, and most financial advisors can, that outpace what your attorney is likely capable of doing. So what you want to find is someone who can partner early on, who is willing to partner early on if you feel like you need the additional support through the process to get you to a point where here's what I have in my settlement and now I need help actually managing this money.
Mm. Mm. I think that's great advice. So I want to stick here a little bit for just a moment with those who are listening that are like, all right, we're contemplating, we're pretty sure we're going to move forward. So I feel like the best time might be to talk to a financial advisor to help me right now. But they also could be thinking, I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start with all of this. So, can you give me like two or three questions they should be asking at the very beginning stages of divorce?
Yes. When they're interviewing financial advisors, I suppose asking what is their experience working with somebody in the divorce process.
Mm.
Now, it is not an absolute mandatory that somebody's practice focuses on divorce specifically. Like somebody can help you with assets post divorce in many
Yeah.
different situations. That being said, there is a growing school of thought around having certain designations related to divorce, understanding that process so you can help them go from the stage they're at to the stage that they want to be. I
Yeah.
certainly fall into that camp where I think that there can be a lot more benefits. So asking, what is this financial advisor's experience with people navigating the divorce process? And then if they have that experience or practice focus, what does that look like for you? Because everyone's different. I would say for myself, I like to be involved earlier, even if there aren't actually assets that I can manage technically at this point, not until the divorce decree is final. So I can build that relationship, add that value, and start creating that long-term, hopefully lifetime relationship with my client. Some advisors, they want to be there kind of at the end. Okay, I understand the divorce
Mm-hmm.
process and now you've got a settlement and I can help you with the odds and ends of moving that all over. So kind of just understanding what's their experience with their divorce and how do you work with individuals navigating divorce would be question number one
Okay.
that you should
Love
ask.
that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. And so, kind of thinking about this too, because again, not everyone listening to this podcast is only in the beginning stages of the divorce. So, I do kind of want to touch on a little bit more about when they're actively in the divorce and then after the divorce. But first, I want to get your thoughts and feedback on this. Is there anything, again, no matter what stage they're at, that they should be doing before coming to talk to you? Like, are there specific things they should be getting in line before reaching out to make it a better and smoother process for everyone?
Great question. Yes. I would say a high level understanding of the assets in your marital estate is what it's called. So, and this is touching on another great topic. Many financial advisory practices have asset minimums, meaning you need
Mm,
to have an account of at least this level in order for us to be able to work with you in our full capacity. At Bernstein Private Wealth, that minimum is 1 million. Some places it's 500,000, some places it's 5 million, some places it's 10. There are also financial advisors who work on different types of fee schedules, maybe advice only, and they don't have asset minimums at all, and
mm,
like everything in between. So
yeah,
having a clear picture of here's the ballpark of it,
sure.
and are these investment assets? Are these hard assets like our property or a vacation home? It doesn't have to be the nitty gritty of every budget item. They probably don't care about your vehicles unless you have a freakishly large collectible vehicle like spread
Yeah.
on your property, which some people do. Uh, but it's just the general overview so they can assess, is this a good fit from where we focus in a market perspective, or should I refer you to somebody else where it might be a better fit? So
Yeah.
just the high level overview of the financial assets.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a really great point of when you're again, we talk so much about emotions on this podcast with every professional because it's just part of the story
Mm-hmm.
of divorce and it can lead you into, just kind of all over the place. And so at the Divorce Support Collective, we are really passionate about having multiple professionals in the same field as a part of our membership for people who are going through divorce to be able to look at and really decide like who is the best fit for me, not just, oh, you guys only have one financial advisor, because again, we're also all over the country, so we need people who can practice in multiple different spaces if that's, limited to licenses and whatnot. But I think it's really important to just remind the thought of kind of like dating your professionals that you're going to have part of your support team because you want to make sure that you feel confident and comfortable with them and that they're going to help you move through the divorce with hopefully meeting most of your goals, if not all. But in divorce, I don't know if it's really realistic to always get all of your goals met. But I really appreciate you sharing some of those questions that people should ask and the things that they should be getting beforehand. Because I think that probably simplifies it too. Because they might be thinking like, oh my gosh, I need all of our tax returns for the last 10 years, and I need this and
Yeah.
that, and I need to know all the things. But you're saying like just have a ballpark of what your assets are,
Mm-hmm.
and we can kind of go from there.
Yep. Agreed. I think you also, though, touched on a really important thing when it comes to the emotional side of things
Yeah.
and feeling comfortable with your financial advisor. Like, there's two things that you need to check off. Like, one, does this person's practice and firm match the level of complexity that you have in your asset picture? So they're
Yeah.
not all financial advisory shops are created the same. Their approaches are different. Some are more geared towards we have sophisticated planning and resources because our clients that are higher asset levels and they need those levels of service. Some don't. So if they check that box, the next thing is how safe do I feel with this person on an
Mm,
emotional level? If
yeah.
someone is making you feel uncomfortable, talked down to, they're speaking at you in jargon, it's a confusing experience, shop around. You will find
Yeah.
people who are a better personality fit. That relationship will be much more rewarding for the both of you. And there's tons of different people out there. So, not everybody's going to be a great personality fit with me, but they might be with somebody else I know. So please, like, keep interviewing people until you've met that match, like dating.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that, again, I know we've really focused on the beginning part of, okay, we're contemplating, we're thinking about it, but I mean, have you, maybe I'll start with this. Have you had clients before who do come to you saying, like, we're in this contemplation stage, we just want to see what it looks like financially and then decide not to move forward with a divorce?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's still an important conversation to have because
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ways you can go through splitting marital assets. I mean, at the end of the day, what the court wants is for you to have made all of the decisions necessary to split your financial picture and to split things around minor children. Like,
Yeah.
that's it at the end of the day. They need you to come to an agreement. And if you don't come to an agreement, they will decide for you on these issues. So, understanding like the lay of the land, if both of you are amicable and you need help navigating the financial split, there are financial neutrals who that's all they do, and you can save
Mm,
yourself a whole lot of money. And I'm not a financial neutral because I'm biased to the clients that I take on. But
sure.
yes, I think it is super helpful to at any stage just have an introductory conversation, get a
Yeah.
perspective, and you can start from there.
Yeah, and you might be able to, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things that go into a consideration for getting a divorce. So it's not just, hey, what are our bank accounts going to look like at the end of the day if we get
Yeah.
divorced? There's so many different pieces, but I like knowing that even if they are in just that, like, hey, we've kind of talked about it, we're not sure if that's the path we want to go to, they can still utilize like you or someone else that, is in this field to be like, what does this look like in the future if we decide to move forward with the divorce. Okay, so we talked again a lot about the people who hopefully are, already thinking about the finances and want to reach out to a financial advisor and kind of figure out what that forecast looks like. But we also might have some people listening to this podcast that is like, oh my gosh, I already missed the boat. Like, we're already in the middle of the divorce, and I'm just going off of what I can look on online or maybe Google searching. Is there still hope for me to get help in the middle?
Absolutely. I think most people don't come to a financial advisor unless they already had one in the picture until the
Hmm.
divorce is over. This is something
Okay.
I'm trying to get people to think about differently.
Yeah.
Is there is a point in having help from a financial advisor during the process, depending on what that financial advisor is willing or capable of doing to support your process.
Mm.
So there's definitely hope. I think it's never too late to reach out. You could be 10 years post a divorce and just having this moment of, I really wish I had help and I would like it now. So it's absolutely never too late.
Yeah.
But that also brings up like a great point of discussion around what could a financial advisor do in the middle of a divorce?
Yeah. I would love for you to expand on that.
So again, it depends on people's practices. Some people are like, honestly, here's a little brochure and come to me when your divorce is finalized. I'll help you manage this money. There's
Mm.
nothing inherently wrong with that. That's not what I do in my practice. So first and foremost, every financial advisor should have some projection based or analytic capabilities that can help answer some fundamental questions like, am I going to be okay after divorce
Yeah.
financially? I mean,
Yeah.
that is the number one question that I am answering from jump. And it doesn't matter if you're getting 80 million in a settlement and I could look at you and go, oh, you're going to be fine, right? You still want to know that with some certainty, like clarity
Mm-hmm.
around this. And no, nobody knows how the financial settlement is going to end until it ends, but you can run projections. Like, here's a presumed 50-50 split. Are you okay with what you're spending now, what your spending needs are going to be in the future to be able to retire, to be able to meet your
Mm-hmm.
living expenses? Do you need to change your lifestyle? So I can answer those questions, even in just near hypothetical, during the divorce settlement process.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
it's
because
also,
those are,
yeah.
yeah. No, sorry, keep going. Those are all such great points to bring up that, maybe some people are so in the middle of the divorce or after the divorce and rebuilding that they kind of push those other thoughts off to the side. So, yes, sorry, please keep going.
Yeah. And then I think also just understanding what you have. Granted, it's unless you had a prenup in place, it's likely going to be relatively 50-50. There are some nuances with that, like if you had assets before the marriage and usually you're working with an attorney who has expertise in like marital tracing and those sorts of complexities that tend to
Yeah.
happen in like ultra high net worth couples. But overall, you could put a generalization on like, I'm roughly going to end up with this amount. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding where those assets are located, like, are they in retirement accounts? How does that
Yeah.
process work? Because if you've got like, let's say spouse one is been predominantly employed, a major wage earner, they have a 401k, they've been depositing money into it, and you've been married this whole time. In theory, that's half yours, but you have to get a special order, a qualified domestic relations order that tells the plan in question to distribute roughly this amount of the funds post divorce. And so just understanding like how are these assets held,
Yeah.
and in whose name are they right now? Because I am frequently working with clients who it is a lot of times the female who is the out spouse, and there's all these investment accounts and they're in husband's name.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding like how are they invested. I have somebody that I worked with who husband had a very long track record of selling short, which is a very risky investment proposition. And so he would win wild amounts of money, lose wild amounts of money. And there probably should have been something that stopped that during the divorce process, because you technically shouldn't be doing anything with your assets. They're somewhat considered frozen, but he still had
Mm-hmm.
access to them and could still do stuff. So just understanding what you have and where it's located is actually a
Yeah.
huge step in that process. And some of those things the attorney can help you with. Some of it, I think, may be better suited for a financial advisor, depending on the attorney's level of financial expertise.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that example too. And something that I would love to ask you about that is, we hope for the best when people do decide to move forward with a divorce. We hope that it can be as amicable as possible and, it can be non-traumatic for both parties. However, we also know that that is not real life all of the time, that there can be some high conflict, there can be some resentment. Again, a lot of those emotions come in. So, what advice, if any, do you have for someone going through a divorce that's saying, yes, I want to move forward with it, but they're the ones who held most of they did everything financially and they don't want to give me information about it now that I want to go forward with a divorce?
Well, that's going to be compelled during the divorce process. Should you hire attorneys in discovery, they have to legally disclose all of this stuff and provide statements. And so
Sure.
they're going to be forced to, if you're approaching it from that way, which is honestly the only way to do it, I think, in that
Yeah.
situation. But talking about emotions, I think you actually brought up something that is a bigger deal when you're dealing with high conflict situations. You're already emotionally overwhelmed. I have witnessed one of the soon to be ex-spouses utilizing emotional scare tactics to get somebody
Mm,
to back off of pursuing what's rightfully theirs from a financial
mm,
perspective.
yeah.
Now, with a set of assets, so let's say it's just like cut and dry, we have $1 million in retirement accounts and some taxable investment accounts. We have a property to split. We're just doing it 50-50. that can be somewhat less complicated. But when you've got, say, business ownership in the mix, one of the people in the couple has a business, has business interests, has multiple business interests. Well, in order to figure out what those are worth from a marital perspective and what they might owe you, you need to go forward with process to get formal business valuations done. There's a lot more discovery that goes into part of that. And I've seen people use scare tactics like, hey, you're going to ruin this business. You're going to bankrupt us. You're going to do this if you pursue this legal action to get more of what's financially rightfully yours. And I've watched, clients I'm working with back off. Like, I just want to be done with this. Can we just get whatever settlement? I'm willing to settle for less to just be done with this. And then this is my public service announcement. Try to resist that, because in high conflict situations, that person's going to have a problem with something no matter what.
Yeah.
You need to be able to advocate for your financial best interests, because it can be night and day. And I'm happy if I'm working with someone to prove this to them. You get half. How are you going to fare over the next 40 years in this like half you're proposing? Or you get the businesses valued and we look at this financial picture, which is what you're entitled to. Where are you better off? And sometimes that helps them get over the hurdle. But like, please advocate for yourself. You're not doing anyone a disservice by pursuing what's legally rightfully yours.
Yeah. I think, again, great reminders. So let's say that we have some people on here too that are, in their next phase of life. They're rebuilding after divorce. What are some of the best practices that you suggest people after a divorce do, even if they're working with a financial advisor or not?
Yeah. I think if you're working with a financial advisor, actually, this is true in both cases. Take time to educate yourself about some of the basics of what your money is doing. So this is something, to the extent somebody is willing to indulge me, I like to engage as part of our, in particular, like initial meetings. Let's do some education in a non-judgmental zone. Like, if you don't understand fully what a stock is, what a bond is, how investments are allocated, that's totally fine. I don't know where you would have figured out this information in the public school systems in America. So unless your family taught you those things or you had education afterwards, like, let's start with the basics. You understand what your money's doing. And if you're working with a financial advisor, speak with somebody who feels passionate about you understanding that. Either has curriculum, will take the time to slow down, say things again in a different way, again, not utilizing jargon. So get yourself some baseline education. And then thinking with, like, I have yet to encounter, okay, maybe I have one example of someone who isn't going to be spending out of their portfolio after a divorce when they come to me, right? So figuring out how you can invest those assets smartly without taking on too much risk to be able to meet your spending needs as you're using that to supplement, or in some cases, your only form of income, like through retirement. So understanding that, I would say there's all sorts of other tangential things that are not just about investments and making your money make more money that a financial advisor should help you with. But if not, you can educate yourself outside of that. Updating your estate plan. If you had a will, irrevocable trust, all of that stuff, it doesn't automatically just end because you got a divorce. You can't just go, here is a divorce decree, so he no longer gets half my stuff. That isn't how that works. I mean, you could challenge it in probate because of that, but it's a lot easier when you get an updated will, get a updated revocable trust, and then just generally look at the beneficiaries on all of your accounts. My guess is, if you're like most people, it defaulted, it was your spouse as primary. Well, you need to now start thinking through some of those things. Think about insurance changes. You may have been on a spouse's plan and now you need to get your own insurance. That doesn't, like, that's health insurance, life and disability insurance, automobile insurance. So all of these things need to change, or at least need to be looked at as if this is still reflective of the life that you're now building.
Yeah. Wow. Because again, there's so much to look at, and we don't want to make any listeners fearful of, Oh my gosh, you have to do everything at once. But getting the right support system in place is so key because you are, an expert in the financials. Where we also have people in our organization that are experts in the estate planning.
Yep.
We have people who are experts with mediation, with divorce coaching. And so, from your perspective, I mean, you already mentioned some. We talked about lawyers, we talked about estate planning attorneys, obviously financial advisors. What is one or two other professions that you feel are just extremely important to have for someone who is building their support team through any stage of divorce?
I think divorce coaches, to the extent I mean, it's emotional for everybody, but it's also a spectrum. I think if you are in a high conflict divorce and you're fielding a lot of those things, divorce coaches can make more sense.
Mm,
Find somebody who is aligned with the value system of your team. Because
mm,
there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people who like to share that they're coaches professionally, and I think some of them are worth their weight in gold, and some of them can impede the process. So make sure that they're on board with this is the area of Venn diagram that I help you with, and this is how I can help partner with the other advisors around you. But they should be there from an emotional, like, I need to process this. Most people
yeah.
default to, I want to process this with my attorney because they're the person who can do something about it. But remember, you're paying them an hourly rate, and those bills rack up and rack up and rack up.
Yeah.
Much easier to segment, just have them do what they need to do and emotionally process with somebody else. Whether that's a therapist or a divorce coach, I can make an argument that you could benefit from both. So
Yeah.
someone to help you with the emotional sides of things. I don't have any problem with emotional conversation, and because my fees are a percentage of assets under management and not a billable, hour, I'm happy to talk through any aspect of my clients' lives, but also that's not my role in the
Yeah.
team. I would
Yeah.
say the next, a tax professional. So
Mm,
unless you're somebody who's enjoyed doing your own tax and like TurboTax and it's pretty simple, there could be cause to look at, hey, we were working with a tax provider. Maybe that relationship was with my spouse more than with me, and I'm looking for a new person. And you can get those recommendations from your divorce attorney, from your financial advisor, but I would say tax on that side, and then an insurance agent, depending on the types of insurance you have set up. I don't
mm,
sell insurance through, like, our firm doesn't sell it. I know
yeah.
some financial advisors do.
Mm.
So that could be baked into the conversation, but that's another thing that's going to come into play.
Yeah, wonderful suggestions. And the other piece that I kind of wanted to add on to that, because as you said, and we talk about that again on this podcast a lot, is that if you're using or your lawyer as your therapist, you're going to be paying one big therapy bill. So utilizing experts who are in their field for a reason and can really help with that part of the divorce is actually going to save you money in the long run. So if you do get a divorce coach, for example, or a therapist that is helping you process the emotions of all of it, you're going to be able to make better proactive decisions with your other professionals, like your financial advisor and like your lawyer, for example, if that's the route, or your mediator. And you're going to be able to come in with a much clearer mindset and have better, more efficient conversations and decisions instead of utilizing all or just the couple professionals that you have as your emotional support, because it doesn't always work out very well like that. So I
So
think
true.
that this was really great, Carice. Oh, we are at our end of our time, but thank you so much. I think you gave our listeners so many different things to just ponder about, again, whether they're in the beginning stages, they're going through divorce, or they're after and just really rebuilding. But is there any other information or just last thing that you'd like to say to our listeners who are navigating divorce and when it comes to their finances?
I guess, to bring it back to the beginning, you can do hard things. It is not as complicated as it seems at first, especially if you get going and if you have the right team members in place, in particular, a financial advisor who resonates with you and has experience working in this space. It can make all the difference in the world in simplifying
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
you got it. You got it. It's going to be okay. I promise. too. There's light on the end of that tunnel as someone who's been there, done that.
I love that. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing part of your personal story, part of your professional insight, or a lot of your professional insight, especially when it comes to finances, which can be so emotional, can be so fearful when you're going through divorce. So, listeners, make sure to head to the show notes. You're going to be able to get connected with Karise and find her on LinkedIn, check out Bernstein and all of those things so that you can get connected, ask her questions. And if you're looking for a financial advisor in the Minneapolis area, she is always there as well. And of course, you can go look at the divorcesupportcollective.com to look at who our other professionals are to fill in some of those other team members that we just talked about. So thank you so much for joining us today on this episode, and we will see you on the next discussion.
Thank you for listening to the Divorce Discussions podcast. If this was helpful, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next conversation. Visit the divorcesupportcollective.com to explore resources and connect with our professionals. Until the next discussion, remember, you don't have to navigate this alone.